Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Game Fiends. Got Durgan Frost with me. This is going to be part 3 of our Legion discussion videos. So this part's coming out quite a bit later than part 2. It's been long awaited by my fan base. Not really, but so Durgan Frost with me. We've got some really pressing matters to attend to for the new Legion expansion. There's been some new information um,
Yeah.
released, but basically for the we're going to go ahead and open up with a comment by one of viewers.
Do you remember who's the one who made the comment?
Oh yeah, so this comment is from Portrait Vision. One of my subscribers. We've been talking back and forth. We have some somewhat conflicting viewpoints, but I think he's made some really good points, some really valid points about Blizzard as a company. And he put this comment that I thought would be worth mentioning in this video because he brought up a lot of good points. His YouTube channel is called Torture Vision. I'll put it in the description if you want to check out his channel. Makes a lot of videos about other MMOs. So I guess you can go ahead and read the comment.
All right. And just to kind of disclose, we're doing this currently on a Saturday night that my wife has the unfortunate pleasure of being on call at a college campus, so she might be coming in and out. So there might be periods of time where you might hear like an awkward cut in the podcast because I would have just muted it and cut out whatever. So just thought I'd let you know in case anything does happen. But she's actually out on a call right now, so she could be back anytime. Who knows? But let's jump right in. So, question is, after burning players with WoD, how do you expect things to be better in the future? Diehard fans are assuming WoD was just a filler expansion, so all the efforts could be directed toward Legion. Blizzard said no such thing. In fact, J. Allen Brack recently said, "We were completely dedicated to the Warlords of Draenor expansion, and now the Legion expansion. We're even thinking about the expansion after that. We're already talking about what comes next." So, I've heard this kind of talk before from a little phone company that people might know called Samsung. And if we remember Samsung, the people who bought the Galaxy S5, that phone was garbage compared to everything else that came out. But now the Galaxy S6 is out and people love it. I don't know a damn thing about Galaxy phones because I've never had one, but that's one of the things I actually just thought of as I was reading it. You know, if you're constantly thinking about the next big thing, you're not really able to put in the effort to the thing that you're making now. So they say things like, "Oh yeah, we were totally dedicated to Warlords of Draenor, and we're also completely dedicated to Legion." You can't be completely dedicated to both things, so it's kind of one or the other. So I feel like their heart was probably more into Legion, and I feel like they just they weren't able to deliver on all the fronts that they wanted to for Warlords. They hyped it up a lot. They hyped it up and got me really psyched for it. And
Oh
then
yeah, it was a really big release. Like tons of people were coming back to the game and stuff.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it was like the biggest numbers they've seen since Wrath of the Lich King. It
Yeah,
was really close. And they hit all the nostalgia in the right places. Like, hey, come check out Nagrand. You guys love Nagrand. It's like, hey, look at all these guys you haven't seen since old Warcraft games. Like, hey, Rexar. Just saying. Like, all these different things. Most of them I don't even remember off the top of my head, but they hit it just right, especially after Pandaria. But they just weren't able to, keep on delivering. And my big problem is if you're always thinking about the next big thing, you're never going to be able to deliver what you want, this time around. Like if they're already focusing on things, not even focusing, but planning on things after Legion, I don't know how much of that time and effort's being focused into something after Legion, but Legion's not even in beta yet. If they're already like, oh yeah, we're already starting to plan another one after that, and be like, slow down, guys. You guys need to just deliver one nice big expansion. You'll be fine.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, they had it right for so many years, and they were doing well for so many years, and they changed things up, and it just didn't work out. So they should go back to the original recipe. If it's not broke, then you don't need to try to fix it.
Exactly. KFC, man. They never change. Colonel
Exactly.
Sanders is back. He's resurrected from the grave. Oh, but what are your thoughts on?
There must
The whole
always
thing?
be a Colonel Sanders.
Oh my god. Oh, that's perfect. It's true. You know what? You know what happened was Colonel Sanders. What is he died, and then the new Colonel Sanders took up the helm, the literal helm of Colonel Sanders, but then he was encased in ice until very recently, and then he was released back into the public eye, and he became the Lich King of KFC. Oh my god, you've cracked the code. We don't even need to continue the podcast. We're done. We figured it out. 5 minutes in and boom.
All right, let's get back to this quote because we kind of just drifted away. We tend to do that.
Easily sidetracked.
Yeah, we get off topic pretty quickly. So yeah, in regards to this comment, I think you brought up a lot of good points, and I think these are a lot of valid points, and I think these are a lot of points that a lot of players really, like a lot of long-term players like me, just really don't want to have to face. Like they might know some of this stuff is true in the back of their head, but they really don't want to sort of face the facts. That yes, there's a ton of problems with Warlords of Draenor, and like you said in the comment, they said that all their efforts were devoted to Warlords of Draenor. If that was true, then it probably would have been a lot better. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily true, but it's a direct quote. So
well, I mean,
it's not true that guy was lying.
Admit to being like, oh yeah, totally. Our heart wasn't completely
yeah, exactly.
Expansion. Like no one's ever going to
exactly.
admit that.
And I mean, but they have admitted some of their mistakes with Legion. However, they probably hadn't come out and admitted nearly as many as they probably should.
Yeah.
But you know, I think they are definitely, you know, they're not stupid. They're taking notes as far as people's reactions to things, and they're definitely going to try to improve on it in the future.
And I know we've kind of touched upon it before, because one of the key points that I was personally concerned about was the longevity of dungeons. And they said before, like after the Legion announcement, or like, you know, during the Legion announcement, they want dungeons to be relevant the entire expansion. And probably not just, you know, a daily, you know, go and rush through. I'm sure they're going to be like, what they meant is be relatively challenging and rewarding, you know, the entire time.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see how they plan on doing that, because I know a lot of people didn't like the difficulty of Cataclysm Heroics, but at the same time, Mists of Pandaria dungeons were a bit too easy, so I don't know if they're going to do like some kind of in-between thing, or whatever they have planned. Very interested to see, just for that aspect alone.
Yeah, I guess, you know, the dilemma with dungeons is that, you know, it's their purpose is to gear like pre-rating.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that, you know, the dungeons are some of the best content that they actually make. Like a lot of work goes into them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 9 dungeons have already been announced for Legion.
I believe so.
9.
That sounds right.
So
it's probably around.
I mean,
number.
you know, yeah, I think it's 9. But basically, like, all this work goes into these dungeons, and they're pretty much just swept aside, like towards the very beginning of each expansion. Especially in Worlds of Draenor. I talked about this in the previous video that we made. But basically, especially with no quests in the dungeons, like there's not even a leveling incentive unless you have a Frostfire Tavern or a Frostwall Tavern, which most people probably don't. Mm-hmm. So like the even the dungeons on normal difficulty, the incentive of using them level up is kind of taken away. And then as far as you know, once you get to end game, the window of time where you're grinding heroics to get the blues that drop to go ahead and like get your item level up, and Worlds of Draenor was 630. So once your item level is 630, then there's really no reason to ever go back to dungeons. It's pretty much straight to rating from there. They never really and you know, so in the very beginning of the expansion is really the only time that dungeons are relevant.
Yeah.
But they did kind of correct that when they came out with the Mythic Dungeons idea, and I think that's probably going to be implemented again in Legion. I think they're probably going to be Mythic Dungeons again. However, they're still, I guess, looking at the reactions of Mythic Dungeons from this expansion.
Yeah,
but I think they've gone pretty decent so far.
And I know you and I were talking pre-podcast that Mythic Dungeons probably would have been a lot better implemented if it was done at the launch of Warlords of Draenor, as opposed to tacked on at the very end.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, just because like this is an incentive to raiding. Because a lot of players, might not necessarily raid, but they like just do dungeons and don't raid.
Yeah.
And so that would be a way for them to gear up, especially if the difficulty is going to be equivalent, just in smaller groups. However, I kind of think that the absolute in-game content should be probably in the form of raids. I don't think the dungeon difficulty, the dungeon gear should be the same level as the raid gear necessarily.
Right.
But yeah, I think there should definitely be more gearing incentives in form of dungeons, because I personally just really enjoy doing dungeons. I really like the five player 5-player dungeons instead of having to get a giant raid together to go do some. I guess really it's only 10 players, but still, it's a nice change of pace to have a smaller group doing that content. And I think Mythic Dungeons is a good way to do that, so you can still get some good gear through dungeons and keep them relevant throughout the course of an expansion.
Yep. And then I allegedly remember it was supposed to be a thing in Warlords where dungeon gear was actually going to be better than LFR gear, like the initial LFR gear. In fact, I think LFR was supposed to not even drop epics. It was supposed to drop blues. It was supposed to be there just so you could see the cinematics, just so you could see the story, just so you can know what's going on. It's kind of like the not audiobook, but I guess the visual novel version of World of Warcraft was supposed to be the raid finder, and then it ended up turning into better gear progression than dungeons, but not quite. I mean, it was basically, as it always been, it's better than dungeons, but not as good as normals, and so on. But
yeah, that's a whole other conversation entirely. Is basically is LFR good or bad? There's a lot of arguments to be made either way.
Yeah.
I think it obviously it strips those the raids from some of their difficulty and epicness of a raid. But on the other hand, the Blizzard's trying to cater to the majority of their subscribers, and the majority of their subscribers isn't staying up and having raid nights every night. They're probably just logging on every now and then. And LFR is a really good way to see the content, but just to burn through that content just really isn't a good way to go about it. That's just not what raiding is. And so to see that content in that way just kind of takes away from it, and probably makes someone who does LFR less likely to do a real raid, because it's so much easier and it looks exactly the same. The only difference is the gear drops.
Right. And I think actually one of the biggest takeaways is like the LFR system in general isn't technically terrible. Like going through, doing the dungeon, seeing it, it's not bad. I think just the reward structure was kind of wrong to begin with, because it's one of those things like have your cake and eat it too. If you go through the LFR, because people for years are saying we want to see the content. Technically speaking, if you go through and you see the content, that doesn't necessarily mean that you get all the rewards from the content too. It's a thing where you're going through.
Right, yeah.
If you get to fight,
but
it all started with Deathwing. Like you got to fight Deathwing, but that doesn't mean you got to get the best sword in the game. Even though technically back then it was a pretty damn good sword, and but I feel like if you fought him in LFR mode, technically speaking, you should have only gotten like a blue random sword that wasn't even close to what you get for doing the actual version. That's how I feel on it.
And I guess if you think about it, then now, the LFR and Hellfire Citadel, obviously it's a really good way to gear up and get epics, but the quest in Tanaan, I know you haven't played since 6.2, but the gear that you can get out of Tanaan is actually better than the gear that you can get from LFR. So if you're trying to gear up, there's more incentives maybe in non-jungle, maybe the gearing up is a little bit slower, but the actual gear itself is a higher item level than the gear from Raid Finder,
Jeez. See,
which is interesting.
This will actually go back to the comment of, man, I feel bad for not remembering his name.
Oh yeah,
I don't have it pulled
Tortured
up on
Vision.
What was his name again?
Tortured Vision.
Tortured Vision?
Yeah, Torture Vision.
Torture Vision. Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, we're not talking about him in any sort of negative way. I'm
Oh,
gonna
no.
in the description to promote him and stuff like that.
This is an analyzation.
I thought it was just a really good comment that needed to be brought up. And I guess we can read that to its fullest extent.
Because
did you read the whole thing?
Yeah, I read it out, and he was basically saying just how it was the filler expansion. And I feel like Warlords of Draenor could have actually not felt as much like filler if not everything was given as quickly as it was, because all the different ways to progress kind of sped things along and made it feel more fillerish than it needed to be. Because you had the garrison system giving out gear. Like, you got tons of epics from the garrison system alone. And on top of that, there was Apexis crystals.
Yeah, I had tons of mythic raid gear without even stepping foot into a mythic raid.
Yep. The black market auction house is another one, even though that technically started back in Mists. But that's just, all these little different things, they add up. And then the thing I actually really liked at the start, the very start of Warlords, before the raids even came out, is the only way you could really get gear, because the black market auction house I don't think was in the game at the time. The only way for you to get epic gear outside of crafteds, and that took a long time too. I think it took like a month technically to get a piece of crafted gear just because of the cooldowns, which we're going to cover later because they're removing that whole system. But the only way you can get epic gear was the daily challenge mode dungeon. It was either daily or weekly. I think it was, I'm not sure what it was. It might have been daily. And yeah, because I think they only held out the rates for the first week. So you go through, you do your daily challenge mode, and you had to be just really good. Like, I don't even know if you actually had to beat it in a certain amount of time. I think you might have had to get bronze or something. And hell, even just completing the dungeons by themselves.
This was the best in slot PvE gear before the
before raids came out.
Expansion.
Yeah, before raids, it was the only way to get any kind of epic. It was a few item levels above the dungeon gear at the time. So you did all your heroics, and then you went through and you did the challenge modes. Those you couldn't queue up for. You had to do with a pre-made group. And you went through... Well, I mean, technically there was also the group finder tool. So there's that. But you go through, you do the challenge mode, you get your piece of gear. And I feel like something akin to that was really good, because as much as people love getting all their gear at once, it's not a good thing. Like, a reward structure should be built to give it somewhat over time to either a casual person or even a hardcore person. And I'm not trying to...
Yeah, the gearing is...
What?
The gearing has been easier than it's ever been before in Worlds of Draenor by far, I would say.
And I'm not trying to be some kind of like elite sitting up on top of my throne of epics and legendaries and be like, so you'll get legendaries and epics when I feel like you've earned it. Like, no. This is like me talking back when I first started playing. Like, I remember, back in my day, I don't even want to do that, but it's one of those things, like, if you, even in real life, like, if it takes longer for you to earn something, you feel better about it. Like, if you, for example, if you were a kid and you asked your parents for, I don't know, the new Nintendo system, and they kept saying, like, oh, wait till Christmas. And then the Christmas morning, you open it up and you're just like, oh my God, Nintendo 64! Like, just like that video, which, by the way, does exist. Just go to YouTube and look up, like, Nintendo 64. You'll pretty much find it right away. You feel really good versus, like, if you go into a store and you're like, hey, can I have the can I have a PS4? And your dad's just like, yeah, let's go get a PS4. And you feel good. And then you play it for a bit and you're like, all right, I need something else now. Because, you just get it. There's no build up. There's no hype. If you're always just getting something, you don't really feel good about it. You just feel like it's just another part of your day. It's like, here's another perfect example. Pumpkin spice lattes. People freak out about them every year when they hit Starbucks. But as soon as they're gone, they're gone. And you have to wait.
The McRib.
No one wants the McRib. That's like... That's going to be the artifact system's the McRib to me. Like, oh... You're just going to give this to me? I don't even want it. Thanks for my Ashbringer McRib. Artifact system. I will never stop ripping on you. Though admittedly, it's not growing on me, but I don't hate it as much as I initially did. But to get back on track, I want to finish my thought because I very rarely keep my thoughts together.
Back on the whatever you're talking about with the incentives, things being difficult and the sense of reward for actually accomplishing like difficult tasks in the game.
Yeah.
So basically there were some difficult things in WoW the Draenor, like the rep grinds in particular, like the Laughing Skull and stuff like that. You had to grind mobs just to get to Exalted, but there really just wasn't any incentive to do it.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, maybe there's a cool cosmetic helm and stuff like that, but there wasn't any real incentive to do it, so I never ended up doing it. So it was difficult content that was there, there was just not enough incentive to actually make players do it. Another example was the
Netherwing. Netherwing took balls forever.
And then in Worlds of Draenor, the other one was the fishing. It was absolutely ridiculous to level up fishing.
I never did fishing.
To get to 700 was one thing, but then there was a quest chain to catch 100 of each type of fish.
Oh god!
Like the big type of each fish. It wasn't just the regular version; it was the big version, which was like not even 100% chance per fishing. So it'd be like a 50% chance. So you'd have to fish like literally hundreds of times just to get it, just to unlock Nat Pagel as a follower.
Yeah, and someone else might be into that,
which was
I'm good.
That was incentive enough for me to get it because, let's be honest, Nat Pagel is the greatest lore character of all time.
He is awesome. I have him in Hearthstone.
But that's probably not enough incentive for most people to actually do it because fishing was extremely difficult, but the incentives just really weren't there. Again, there's some cool mounts and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one cool mount that you can get, but it was just a reskin from the one from Pandaria.
Wasn't that the raft?
To actually obtain it would... No, the Water Strider.
Oh, okay.
But this one's like black and red instead of blue or whatever. But it's the exact same mount, just a different color. So
right.
And to get it would be like ridiculously hard. You need 25 coins, and the coins are just a really rare drop to get. And that's after you get Nat Pagel as a follower, and that's after you get reputation with Nat Pagel. So it's an extremely lengthy process just to get a reskin of a mount. So. Right. Extremely lengthy process, but no, not enough incentive.
Or pay $25 and you can just go get whatever freaking amounts in the shop now. But I mean, I know a lot of people. If you go to the forums and if you talk about having it take longer to get gear, people get really defensive, and it's kind of sad because I'm not trying to make people feel defensive. I don't want people to feel like I'm saying that they don't deserve gear, because they do. Everyone deserves gear, but I'm just saying that if it takes longer, it feels better. At the end of the day, it just does. When you achieve your goal,
exactly,
like the longer it takes, technically the better it feels. If I were I'm trying to think of another good example. I
have an example.
What's up?
So lately I've been actually I've been playing a little bit of Nostarius. Wow, it's a vanilla private server.
I've seen trailers for that. I've been really curious.
Yeah,
and I almost did it.
I tried it out a little bit. Yeah, me and you can play it later or something if you want.
Yeah,
try it out. But basically, it's I did all that stuff once back in vanilla when I already did it once, and I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
10 years later or whatever. But like, it just really just gives you the realization of how different things were. Like, the actual difficulty of completing quest chains, all the class specific quests, stuff like that. And just even doing a simple quest, just the amount of stuff you had to do, like all the difficulty of killing the mobs, like you couldn't fight 2 mobs at once. Just even completing a single quest just felt like a legitimate accomplishment. Sense of accomplishment for just doing one quest was greater than anything you ever could feel now doing quests. They're just really easy, even in game.
Right. I mean, yeah,
definitely recommend.
There was definitely a lot of quests. I remember just leveling up that were a pain in the ass. But when I got the quest done, I was just like, yeah, I did this thing. And then
exactly.
I was just like, whoo, I'm good, man. I don't need to. I've reached my WoW quota for the day because I did this quest, and oof, it sucked, but I'm done and I'm glad. So, and another Warcraft example actually would be a Cataclysm dungeon. And I know I've touched upon this before. At the very start of Cataclysm, everyone probably begrudgingly remembers, like, it would take sometimes 3 hours to do a dungeon, especially if you had a really bad group. And and if you were queuing as DPS, forget it. But whether you're queuing as DPS, heals, tank, whatever, you still had to have a good group who had to CC, who had to pull certain mobs, not the whole freaking thing at once. Otherwise, you would wipe over and over again. You had to know the strategies for the boss. The bosses were like mini raid fights. There was WoW had guides on heroic boss encounters, and it felt like a 3-stage guide for watching actual raid. And I just remember that for whatever the water dungeon was. I forget off the top of my head.
That's Throne
of Tides. Yes, that's right.
That's the first dungeon I did.
I hated that place so much. But man, when I finished it, when I killed the last fight, actually technically the second to last fight was the one that I really hated, but when I got through that last fight and opened up that chest, even just to get the piece of...
that last fight was so hard.
Yeah. It was, the stupid ad at the end that you had to kite around and...
Yeah, there's so many ads and stuff to deal with.
It was absolutely gross. But by the time you got done and you got the weapon and you're like, oh my god, it's blue heroic, better than my stupid green that I have right now. I don't even care that it's not purple. You felt great. You felt great. Or if you didn't get the drop, then you hated life. But I mean, that's kind of the give and take of MMOs. There has to be like we've all been there, man. We've all been there. There's no person who's been so lucky to just get it every single time. We're all gonna have that time where we're like envious of somebody, and then we're all gonna have the time where someone's envious of us. So, there's give and take, but you get to the end of it. If you get your loot, then you feel freaking amazing, and then if you don't get it, then you hate it. But then, say you didn't get it 2 times in a row, you wasted 6 hours of your life, and then the third time you go through and you get it. After that 9 hours and you get that piece, like you're just like, yeah, or you feel like, man, it took so long, I don't even care anymore. But regardless,
and like in Warlords of Draenor, like it seems like loot is just so disposable. Like it seems like as soon as I get a piece of gear, even if it's a good piece of gear, it's replaced really quickly. Not only that, but just like sometimes I'll get gear that's lower item level that's better than gear that's a higher item level, just because of the stats, which I don't think is really good either.
That's always been an annoying thing. Or if something has a on-hit ability and it outweighs the stats of something else that you get. Kind of like, trying to think here. Nothing current that I can think of, but...
What are you saying? It's like a...
Oh, like if you had a sword, like Girthalak from back in Cataclysm.
Okay.
Like, on hit, it would have a chance to spawn a little tentacle to do crazy tons of damage. And technically that was the last item in Cataclysm. But if there was a sword better than that stat-wise, and higher item level, or just like other things with special on-hit abilities, like, you hit this and you have a chance to gain like 1,000 strength for whatever amount of time.
Okay.
So things with like on-hit
Like a proc that
proc.
outweighs base stats.
A proc. It's been so long since I've said the word proc that I almost forgot.
Like, so an example of that in WoD. Look at this trinket called Scabbard of Tyrannos or something.
Yeah.
It's a really low item level. It's like 665 or something. But it's the only thing it does is you use it and it gives you like 3,000 strength or something.
Yeah.
So its item level wasn't that high, but it was still really good. Another one would be Pillar of Earth. Was a stam trinket and it just had like 800 stamina on it.
Yeah.
But it was only item level 670, so something with a much higher item level would be good, but it just wouldn't have nearly as much stamina.
Yeah, I know trinkets are pretty notorious for being able to last a tier or even two, depending on how insane it is. Like, trinkets have kind of always been that way, really. There was trinkets back in Wrath of the Lich King that I remember from, say, for example, not necessarily Ulduar, but there was this one trinket in Trial of the Crusader.
I guess
and it was a trinket. I think it dropped in 25 man because this is 110 and 25.
I think I know what you're talking. I think I know what you're talking about.
I forget exactly what it was called, but it was this massive DPS boost, and it lasted through a good chunk of ICC.
Is that the thing that turns you into like a Tauren?
No, that was actually out of ICC. That was the thing that every pug fell apart trying to get. Like, I actually ended up getting it at 1.2. Shoot, what the freak was it? It's gonna bother me now, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. But yeah, like just trinkets, they have that capability of like they're either OP for a very long time or they're underpowered to begin with. But
yeah, I guess the classic example of that would be Insignia of the Horde.
Right. Well, that's a PvP one.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still like the one you can get it at like level 10, and it's relevant to level 60.
Right. Well, now they're changing it all together, where it's going to be part of like a talent for the new prestige system or whatnot. Because they're separating PvP and PvE.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out with all the gear and stuff like that.
Well, I think they're trying to make gear less of a thing. From what
I don't think there's not going to be any PvP at all. And I think supposedly it's just going to be completely balanced. Yeah,
I'll be interested to see how that goes. Because I know a lot of the big complaint before was all the raiders are better off because they have raid gear. So if they just essentially normalize the item levels, it'll probably be kind of like Destiny for any of you Destiny players, where the gear level is apparently the same, but some of the abilities that you get off of your gear are still going to apply. So if you have like a certain proc, you'll probably still get that. It'll probably still be somewhat balanced, but it might be a small bonus that somebody else might not have if they don't have that proc. But, it'll be interesting. Now, I know, like, technically speaking, we wanted to go into some more Legion information. We've been here for 33 minutes. We discussed Torture. Is it Torture Vision? Did I get
Torture
it right?
Vision, yeah.
We discussed his thing quite a bit, and we appreciate comments like that. And if anyone else wants to leave us a comment or question, they're definitely welcome to do so, and we will probably discuss it. But there's some new Legion information. Well, I say new. It was posted 22 days ago, but I know we wanted to talk about that too, because as you've seen before, we can go on about a few things for quite some time. Did you have any final thoughts to wrap up on our previous thoughts before we jump into the Legion stuff?
As far as this comment, like as far as the Blizzard's reputation as a company,
yeah,
I think that's basically the main thing it was talking about.
Right.
And it was really asking like how can we still support this company? Obviously they've made some big mistakes, and we acknowledge that. I I think both of us pretty much acknowledge that. But at the same time, there's just you sort of form an attachment to the game, and you really enjoy it, and kind of just the hope of the next expansion and what's yet to come kind of keeps you playing. So yeah, I acknowledge that Blizzard has made a lot of errors, but on the other hand, I've had some really great times playing this game, and I'm pretty much just gonna probably keep playing it until until it just gets so bad that it's unplayable. And I thought World of Draenor almost got that bad. It was really bad. But as long as things don't get any worse than World of Draenor, I'll probably keep playing.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I know a lot of my friends are kind of doing the whole cautiously optimistic approach, which is kind of like what I'm doing, where you're looking forward to some of the features, but you're not sure if you want to jump into it or not. Probably going to wait till more information's released, or when we start seeing things in beta, we might, it might pique our interest yet again. Because one of my friends who actually hasn't played since vanilla, ironically enough, he loves all the things that I don't like. For example, the ability to get the Ashbringer. He's just like, oh yeah, that's, I find that to be pretty interesting. And I was going into why I don't like it, and he's like, oh, well, it's one of the reasons I was going to go back in. I'm like, well, I guess that's definitely an interesting perspective, because someone who's been playing a while versus someone who hasn't played in a while might be more interested in something like that. And sorry, and another one of my friends who has been playing for a bit, but he's only recently been back into it since Warlords of Draenor, and previous to that he wanted nothing to do with it. But now him and his girlfriend raid all the time together, and he was going on about how he loves the artifact system. And I was going to have a discussion with him about why I didn't like it, but we never got around to it. It's probably a good thing, because it would have just been like a battle. But going back into what you said about just the overall feeling of Blizzard, I trust that they're going to make a solid game. But, oh man, the air is really dry over here. I'm going to mute my mic and cough really loud. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to get some water in a second or something. But
you're cutting out a little bit sometimes.
Oh, okay. I know the connection on the call is not the greatest, but it should be, recording wise, it should come in through pretty clear. But
okay, good.
Trying to think here what I was saying. Oh yeah, Blizzard itself, they're gonna make a solid game, but at the same time, they're gonna be releasing information at BlizzCon about Overwatch. Lord knows if they're gonna keep improving with Heroes of the Storm and so on. I think those two games are gonna take away a bit from the audience, especially Overwatch, since it'll be like the big new shiny that no one knows about. If that suddenly goes into beta anytime soon. So, yeah. A lot of people have been saying for years the only thing that's going to kill World of Warcraft is Blizzard, and I think that still holds true in one way or another. Either the game itself, they're going to make it unplayable, like you said, or they're just going to make another game that's just too good, and people would rather play that. And I'm going to go get water. If you wanted to give any final thoughts that you didn't need my opinion on, I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, basically talk about Blizzard's reputation as a company. So personally, even if Legion is as bad as Warlords of Draenor, I'm still probably just gonna play it anyway. As crazy as that might sound to some people, you've been playing the game for so long. I've just enjoyed it for so long. I have so many fond memories of the game. I just still enjoy playing it, even if the content isn't necessarily always there, because there's always other stuff to turn to. Especially, and a lot of these new features look really promising to me. But yeah, you really do have to take everything with a grain of salt. And could Legion be a repeat of World of Draenor? I say it probably could. That really wouldn't surprise me that much. Another thing about the game is that it's not always about just the content itself, but really the people you play with change the experience a lot. So if you have a group of people that you meet with on the game, talk to a lot and stuff like that, interact with socially, that's another thing that keeps people playing. So yeah, there's a lot of different aspects of the game outside of just the latest content. So yeah, I really do look forward to the new content that's going to come out, and hopefully everything's there. They don't scrap everything for the like they did in Warlords, like tons of scrap features and content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sorry if I cut you off.
that's fine.
I don't know anything you said. The audience will know, but I.
Yeah, I was
Sure,
just
shouted.
pretty much just saying whatever popped in my head.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you feel comfortably wrapped up before we move on to the Legion information?
I do. I think I'm done. I'm ready.
All right. So, this is the information we're going to be looking at from Wowhead. I have a few bullet points that they brought up. And we also have some other things other than that we can bring in. So, some of the highlights include Demon Hunters currently planned to start at level 98. So, if that is as it sounds, you'll be starting at level 98 before you start the quest line, and I'm guessing you're going to end at level 100, which is definitely pretty interesting compared to what they've done with, Death Knights, where you started at level 55 and you ended at 58, and you still had to level up another 62 levels to get to 80. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. Just because, you probably don't want to be playing through Worlds of Draenor, and you go through all this Legion stuff, and you go to World, and then you have to go fight orcs or whatever. Obviously, that would be contrary to the Death Knights who had to go straight to Outland when they were done. But I think it's kind of weird that they're kind of making you skip content that they already have for you, so that you'd be taking up a lot more time if you play through Worlds of Draenor 2. And so they're just kind of getting you away from content that you could be playing. But majority of people have already played that content and are just sick of it, and they really just wouldn't want to go through it again.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that Demon Hunters start off at level 98, and I would assume that they would go from 98 to 100 and be out of their starting zone at level 1 and jump straight into the new Broken Isles content.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's I kind of figured it was the way they were going to go with it. And to be honest, I'm not upset. I think it's definitely the right way to go. Because more than likely than not, they're going to have the character boost anyway. Now people don't have to worry about using their boost on Demon Hunters, which I'm sure a lot of people were probably going to do, even if you got instantly up to level 90. Like you said.
Oh yeah, and I think it is confirmed that there will be a level boost outside of the Demon Hunter for.
Yeah, you get one free character boost, just like technically it wasn't free. You had to pay an extra $10 because the expansion cost an extra $10 at the time.
I'm not sure if I support that necessarily. Like, I think that keeping it at 90 might have been a better idea, especially for people who are new to the game. I think starting off at 90 and playing through all the Worlds of Draenor and stuff that haven't ever seen it might be a good experience.
Well, they'll get to it if they level another alt. Yeah, I mean
they will, but there's.
I mean, it's the kind of same mentality of like when Warlords came out. You got a free boost to 90, you skipped all and missed to Pandaria.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's kind of like, everybody gets one kind of a thing. I don't have a huge problem with it. Because, for example, my Paladin is level 90. And I don't know if I feel like leveling up through Warlords. I might be that person who uses my boost on the Paladin just so I can go and do all my Paladin things. But I don't know. I might stick it out and level up somebody else instead. Depends
Probably
on what
going to be a lot of Paladins.
Huh?
Probably going to be a lot of Paladins.
Oh, no, there's not going to be any Paladins at all going for the Ashbringer or anything. Just like Wrath of the Lich King, it's going to be another Paladin expansion. Definitely. Like, everything else is just going to be like, meh, whatever. Death Knights are no longer be accused of being the favorite, like they have been for quite some time. But yeah, it's gonna be a thing. Next bullet point: Demon Hunters can use one-handed swords in addition to glaives. Not really a whole lot here, but I don't know. I guess it's an interesting thing. I thought they were just gonna get glaives, and especially Well, wait. I have a question here now. If they're going to start at level 100 and they're going to get their artifact, why would they need a one-handed sword? Like, they're not going to get a chance to get into their weapons anyway.
This is related to post-expansion, so this is going to be after Legion. So this is like a really long time in the future. So
Uh-huh.
you really don't. It's not really that big of a deal. Yeah, during Legion, that's not going to matter at all. They're going to use the glaive artifacts for the entirety of the expansion. So this really isn't something to worry about until after Legion, which is a really long time off into the future. So it's speculated that demon hunters are going to switch to one-handed swords or daggers or whatever after Legion. That's really not a pressing matter by any means.
True. I guess it just feels weird, but at the same time, hunters are going to have a freaking melee spec. So, which is entertaining to no end. And then the next
I think that's a good idea.
What, having
melee hunter, yeah.
I know a lot of people were complaining because people used to say, like, this used to be considered a joke, and now it's going to be real. It's dumb. Like, I don't know. I don't play hunters.
So is Mr. Pandaria.
Exactly. I was thinking about that as I said it, too. But, no, and the best part is they're going to, one of the bullet points, I think, going down or something. Yeah, survival. We'll just talk about this one now. Survival hunters who are melee in Legion get harpoon ability to draw mobs towards them, aka death grip. So that's kind of freaking hilarious. Now it says mobs, so I wonder if they are going to get to pull more than one at once, which would be very interesting.
Gorfien's Grasp.
I wonder if it's like Gorfien's Grasp, but with the length of Death Grip, because technically Death Grip has another 10 yards on Gorfien's Grasp.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. I'm interested to see where that goes. And then, of course, as you said pre-podcast, they're gonna harpoon and then they're gonna disengage. So it's like, get over here, and later, all in one. Because why not?
It's gonna be hunters kiting other hunters.
Oh my god. Oh, that would be hilarious just to see in a battleground. You see tons of hunters like harpooning each other and then disengaging.
All right. So here's what's gonna happen. So like, a beast mastery hunter is ranged with a pet, right?
Yep.
So for a survival hunter, they're gonna be melee, but their pet is gonna be ranged.
Yeah. Oh, wait. The pet's gonna.
Yeah.
What?
So the pet's gonna shoot people from range.
With what?
Like the pet's gonna have a bow.
Oh my god. Oh man, new progression system for hunters. Teach your pets how to use weaponry. You just see, like,
you're gonna have like a ranged pet.
Just picture that.
Yeah, they should implement that. They should bring back they should not bring back, but they should add dual wield ranged weapons.
I should make that the thumbnail for the episode. Just a bear dual wielding hunter weapons. All right. So next bullet point is Demon Hunter Metamorphosis is a short-term transformation with inner demon visuals, not a continuous form. I'm a little disappointed to hear this. To be completely
Let's say that one more time.
The Demon Hunter Metamorphosis is a short transformation. Like, it's basically a cooldown with inner demon visuals.
Okay.
So you get like a cool thing to look at, but it's not a continuous form. So it's a cooldown essentially.
Yeah, and I think what they talked about a lot was that the demon hunters are going to be more of an evasive tank. Like they're going to use more like dodge and parry. Like they're going to be kind of like a monk.
Yeah.
As far as the way they mitigate damage.
Right.
But the metamorphosis is going to be like basically like, you can't kill me, but you can only use it sometimes. It's not active all the time.
There should be some kind of not preparedness quote whenever you go into that form. Not saying the exact same thing, but just like some version of it and be like, you seem to be better prepared like 5 minutes ago. I don't know. Something along those lines.
I'm sure there's going to be something like that. There has to be.
Yeah. Exactly. even though every demon hunter in the world is gonna have that. And I'm sure there's gonna be that person who has a macro where every time their metamorphosis pops, it go and they do like a slash yell, like slash yell. You're not prepared. And be like, oh, get it, guys, and everyone's just like, yeah, I get it, Phil. I get it. For the 20th time this raid, I get it. We're gonna start banning people with that from raid finders. Like, get out of here with your stupid macro. I know this one person who used to be in our raid guild, who I won't name, but he was the only rogue there, and he had this one stupid macro that every time he popped whatever cooldown it was, he would it would be like 20 different lines of like, oh yeah, let's fucking do this, and it's just like, dude, this is so unnecessary. And it's just every minute when that cooldown popped up, and it was just like we'd see that in every different version of text chat available, and be like, no, this is not necessary. Get this out of here. All right. Multi-strike is completely gone, and other secondary / tertiary stats are completely being changed. Your thoughts?
Okay, could you go into that a little bit more? First time hearing about this.
That's all the bullet point has. Multi-strike is gone. That's essentially the big thing. Is multi-strike is gone. They're changing the other stats, but we don't know how. But multi-strike is out. It's gone.
So, like, is it going to be replaced by anything, or it's just eliminated?
It says gone. It doesn't say replaced. It just says gone. So it might just be people think it's too much like crit. I don't know. It's just whatever the stat was that Blizzard didn't like it.
I mean, it's kind of a cool idea on paper, but I didn't really think it was a good stat. I think it's pretty. If you're going to eliminate one, that'd be the one I would choose.
I could definitely see why, because there's probably a lot of different math that goes into it. Because, for example, say you hit and then you have the multi-strike that goes off. The multi-strike can technically crit, but the multi-strike is also subject to the same armor and resistances that the hit went into to begin with. So I'm sure there's just tons of unnecessary math behind it, whereas a crit is just like, hey, I did extra damage. Cool. And a multi-strike's just like, time to open up Excel to see what we did. So, yeah, multi-strike it was definitely, like you said, good on paper, not so probably, and I'm willing to bet it wasn't even that desired. I'm willing to bet that's the reason why. They probably just saw a lot of people avoiding multi-strike gear altogether, or just not caring about it.
Maybe versatility too. Maybe versatility a little bit the same way, but...
Right. Wasn't that just straight damage reduction? Oh, no. Versatility was you increase damage and you also decrease damage taken. So that was that sounds really, really good, but like it would be like 0.2% damage less taken or 1% more. But that's like obviously it's more than that, but like it really seemed like a really small amount. So yeah, it was garbage. Whenever people have versatility on gear, it was just nothing but a complaint. And I can understand why, because, either one or the other, especially the damage reduction, could be way too overpowered.
Yeah.
And you don't want tanks doing too much damage, so you can't give them too much, bonus damage. So it's like, what do we do?
Yeah. I guess the stats like avoidance and leech, and what's the other one?
Avoidance, leech. I know it was the tertiary. There's at least one other. I forget.
I think there's one more. That was PvE. But I don't really think we need any of those. I think they're going to bring. I think those are staying in for the raid gear, and there's a chance they could be on your gear like it's the same as it is now. But I really don't think any of those are particularly useful or necessary.
Yeah, I really like the idea of leech, but I only like that behind the idea of not taking massive damage or always being at full health. Kind of like how tanking was for the longest time. You were essentially either completely alive or 100% dead. There was no in between. If you were a tank that,
Yeah.
say, stayed at relatively 70% health during most of a fight because of just how intensive it was, Leech, in my opinion, could be pretty interesting because it just adds more self-heal. You know, you're essentially
Yeah.
part Death Knight, and if you're already a Death Knight, then you just get even more healing. I think the only thing that Leech falls behind in is once you're at full health, you can't benefit from it anymore. If they made it so
Right.
at least half of the leeched health became a shield, you'd be golden. Definitely. I think Leech would be much more desirable once you have a benefit of already being at full health. Because otherwise, yeah, it's completely wasted numbers the second you're at full health. And that could happen at any time from either a healer
Right.
using a big cooldown or, you know, just they have the extra mana and can afford to top you off. And instantly a stat on your gear, which you might have prized an entire set around, was having a leech set. And it's just completely worthless. So, yeah, I just want them to update that. They probably won't. But if they do, I mean, they said they are going to be changing it. So, who knows? We might get that. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think they could do a lot better with that particular stat. It's kind of a cool idea to
Yeah.
deal damage and heal yourself at the same time, but it doesn't. It seems like another one of those stats where you don't really have that much of it, and you don't even really notice that it does that much.
Well, I know they buffed it after a while. Like all the tertiary stats in general, they buffed them by 400% or something. I don't know if it made like a big impact, but I don't know. I heard that they got buffed at some point.
Yeah, it's really nice to have, like especially I play tank, so like all the AOE that I'm doing, is all that little damage is getting put back as healing onto myself, so it's really useful. But
Yeah.
it's not something that I really notice that much, and all the numbers tend to be really small. So
Right.
from a DPS perspective, I don't know how much that would make your damage go up, but I would say it's more of a survivability thing.
Right. Well, I know Leech in general is pretty much 90 bajillion% a tank stat anyway, and DPS might see a bit of a benefit, but not really. It's more of my healer didn't have to cast, a heal that, well, they probably still would have had to cast because the heal isn't that much off of Leech anyway. But,
Yeah.
yep. Profession updates, very little or no cooldown gated profession materials for crafting. So all those things that you saw could only make this once per day. Now you can make them to your heart's content as long as you have the materials for them to begin with, it sounds like. What are your thoughts on
Well, is it confirmed that there's going to be like items like that again, like the true steel bars or stuff like that? It's going to be an equivalent of that?
I'm not sure. I do not see that here, but I'm willing to bet they're going to have something like that.
Yeah. It's weird it's not on a daily cooldown, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. It might be like a daily quest or something.
Right. That would be funny. There's no daily cooldown, but there's a daily quest. Ha ha ha. We dicked you over. Oh, that would be... I mean, technically speaking, though, that wouldn't be as bad, because say you fall behind a few days, but you... Like, say you did your daily quest, but you didn't make the item or whatever, and you have, like, a bunch of things stocked up, and you can make them all at once. I don't know. I guess, like, it's not
That's
as
pretty
bad,
good
but
point.
it's still a dick move if they did that. Like, daily quest instead of daily item. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, no. I don't think that'll be it, but I guess we'll see. Only time will tell. We've seen things like that happen before. All right.
Yeah, I thought professions were pretty bad in Warlords.
I don't think they were terrible. The garrison system made a lot of things obsolete. Like, gathering professions were a joke. In fact, WoW Krendor made a machinima.
Oh yeah, Herbalist Island.
Herbalist Island, yep. You just go there and you get everything that you ever need, and that was it. So, and I love the comments because people went back in there and be like, "Oh my God, WoW Krendor, you predicted the future." It's great, but Herbalist Island is exactly what it was. And then on top of that, the ability to make things for professions that you don't have. Like, I was never an alchemist on my Death Knight. I was always tailor and enchanter. Yes, on my Death Knight. Shut up. I don't want to hear about it. But, technically...
Well, those professions go together there.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, no one wanted to be a tailor on a Death Knight. But technically speaking, it had the shadow sword, not the... whatever the sword weave embroidery thing that increased your attack power. And you were able to enchant it and put it on your cloak. And it gave you a bonus to your attack power, so suck it. Even though it's no longer in the game, so whatever. I just couldn't make my own gear. I was making gear that I essentially was selling, and I would just make the bags, really. I would make bags and sell them for...
the bags have always been a good way to make money.
And that's part of the reason why I became a tailor in the first place. I just want to make my own bags. I don't want to have to buy bags off the auction house. Boom. That was way back in Wrath when I thought that was important. I'm like, I can make my own sweet bags. Woo! Oh. And then I decided never to change it because I went out of the way to get a lot of rare patterns and I didn't want to change things. So
yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Stage upgrades work differently. Destroy an old item. Get obliterarium, if I'm saying that right, to create a better item. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds like, from what I interpreted it pre-podcast, is if you have an enchanter, you disenchant a piece of gear, you get the enchanting mat. But if you're not an enchanter, I guess now you can break it down. You get the obliterarium material to then create something better out of it. So say you have a helm that you crafted, or just in general. If I don't know if this is uncrafted or all things, but you break down whatever, like, you know, your helm, your chest plate, your cloak, whatever. You break it down, you get the obliterarium, and then you can use that to create another epic piece. So,
but that's only from the previous item.
Only from the is it?
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can get it is from the previous item, right? Like the first item you craft, you break that one, and then you use that to make the second one. Is that how that works?
It doesn't say that directly, but it would make the most sense if it is only for the craft gear. This is a thing.
I didn't read it, so I don't know where that's. Was that on? Was that at the Dragon Con?
Yeah, this is the Legion panel at Dragon Con highlights from the Wowhead discussion. And it's just the bullet point that says stage upgrades work differently. So I'm assuming the stage upgrades as in like the different stages of crafted items. So you destroy the old item to get a piece for the new item. So instead of having to craft an entirely new item, you use part of the old item to create the new one, which is an interesting mechanic. But I don't know.
Yeah, so there's not going to be any more like True Steel Essence or whatever. That's going to be out.
Right, which I never paid a whole lot of attention to because I was just making bags, so I don't know anything about any of that stuff. I never made my own gear that mattered because...
Yeah, I only used it for gold. Like, I didn't actually find myself using it for raiding.
Yeah.
Just because the gold incentive was better.
I feel like a lot of people were doing that. Or if it wasn't selling, I'm sure they just disenchanted it or whatever. Or gave it to an alt.
Yeah.
Alright. So next up, the transmog system, and this will be something you'll know a lot more about. The transmog system in Legion is going to be similar to Diablo and possibly account-wide. Why is it possibly? I'm guessing Wowhead wasn't able to confirm if it's not account-wide. So what you were saying in Diablo is, I guess, if you pick up an item and then destroy it, you're still able to go back and transmog to that piece, correct?
Exactly. That's all there is to it.
Okay. So you pick up a sword and you decide, I don't want to put this in my void storage. I don't want to keep this in my bank. I definitely don't want to keep it in my bags. So you just destroy it, you sell it, you do whatever. You still have access to transmog to it.
Yep.
Not just swords, like anything. That sword's just an example. But
yeah, any piece of gear.
So that'll be interesting. And also,
Definitely.
like we were saying pre-podcast, I'm gonna start recording our pre-shows as we get into some
Sure,
interesting topics. But like you were saying, like
I hope it's account wide.
I hope it's account wide too. That would be very interesting because you might run into something on an alt that you don't run into on your main or whatever, and it's like, oh man, these pants dropped, and I want to transmog into these pants, but you know, I can't use them on this character, so I can't wear these pants on this character. They don't fit. I'm a size I'm a waist size 34. These are a waist size 30. This isn't gonna work out. But nah, like what you were saying is the only downfall of that is now you're gonna have to sift through 400 pairs of pants.
Yeah.
Because you're talking everything, like all the greens, all the blues, all the purples, all the stuff that you just didn't care about.
And then imagine if it's account wide, too.
I mean, imagine
account wide is going to be even more.
I'm willing to bet it would. If it is account wide, it's still going to be per class. Like, you know, it's just say you're logging on to your paladin, it's all going to be plate. You know, you're not going to see things like cloth. If you did, that would be really freaking weird, and especially if you were allowed to transmog it, that would be weirder yet. However, that being said, there are some cloth sets which look so badass, I want them to be plate. So, if they ever decided to do that, I technically wouldn't hate them for it.
Yeah, I guess that's really the point, that they kind of don't want you to look like something you're not.
Right.
To trick people.
Yeah. That would be kind of interesting. I'm totally a priest. Wait, you're using Death Grip. This doesn't make any sense. That's because I'm actually a hunter. Ah! Because now I can do that as a hunter. Ah! And then, of course, the next bullet point, the files, makes the most sense because of what we just read. No extra void storage tab planned. Transmog system should help with the bag space. So I wonder if...
I never really liked void storage anyway.
I thought it was a good idea, and I remember the reason behind the void storage, destroying or basically making the gear, you know, stripped of all enchants, stripped of all gems. It was actually for storage reasons on Blizzard's end. It was less information, less data that they had to store in their database, because it was just the piece of gear itself, and they probably were able to compress the file, and I'm guessing that's why they charged gold, because Lord knows if there was like a process for uncompressing and recompressing the files all the time. So that's probably why they actually made it cost money, so you weren't just pulling them in and out every 2 seconds. I'm sure there was like tons of technical reasons, but yeah, void storage was one of those things where here's my issue. If it's void storage and you fill it up, how is it still a void? Didn't you fill the void? Like, that's the one thing I don't
I mean, that means you have too much transmog gear.
I know. I have my void storage filled.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
well,
I'm
actually,
sure
it's like, it seems like if you fill up a tab, do you get a whole new tab open up?
I think they have 2 tabs right now.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was wondering, because like I filled up my first tab and then I noticed there's a second one, so I don't know if maybe fill up one tab and then you get another one.
I think
probably
I filled
not.
up almost both of them, but I'm not sure. Because I kind of stopped going around collecting stuff after a while. But
yeah, I pretty much just have like one transmog set.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I have a couple, depending on like if I want to be a tank or DPS, or eventually I get bored and then I switch it up, but it is what it is. Well, it looks like it's all going to change anyway for the better. All right.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to make it more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next thing.
Yep. Classes in Legion emphasize fantasy of specs, and some are even getting renamed. I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means at all.
So you said there's some of them are going to get renamed?
Yeah, like I guess some specs themselves are going to get renamed. So who knows? Retribution Paladin could soon be known as, you know, complete douchebag Paladin. I don't know what they mean. Like, why would they want to rename anything? Maybe Maybe they just feel like
I guess they might revamp the class and it needs a new name. Like,
maybe like for example, Survival Hunter. They just call it Punch in the Face Hunter because they're going to be melee.
yeah.
Which is funny because that's technically after this bullet point is the Survival Hunter remark that we made earlier, where they get the melee and draw mobs towards them. So,
I think that's a good change. I like that idea actually.
Where hunters get a melee spec.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
I wonder how heavily that's actually going to be utilized though, or if that's going to be.
I think they're going to rely fully on melee attacks.
No, I get that. But I mean, just I wonder how many people are actually going to go and use that spec versus a range hunter.
Probably a ton of people at first, but
just to try it out, yeah, it'd be interesting. You can be like Bear Grylls, just living out in the wilderness, using your hands to.
Yeah, Bear Grylls played WoW.
Yep. I heard Bear Grylls died. He died or he canceled the show. I don't know which one it was. Obviously, if he died, he canceled the show too, but still. I don't know. But, yeah, I'll be interested to see what they mean by emphasize fantasy of specs.
I think that's what that means. I think what the emphasize fantasy of specs, they just want you to feel like, that's like you have strong class identity, like, for example, like, like whatever, like a frost mage and a fire mage have completely different spell sets and different visuals and stuff like that. I think that's mainly about the visuals of spells.
Right, but they're already pretty well defined. If you're a frost mage and you're casting all these free spells, you don't need the.
Yeah, but if you're like a rogue, like basically if you're here's a better example. If you're playing like subtlety,
yeah,
you want to be more like a ninja, and if you're playing combat, you want to be more like a swashbuckler or whatever.
Okay, that makes sense. Incoming swashbuckler to replace combat. You heard it here first, folks.
That's the South Seas expansion.
Wait a minute. If they do that, though, theoretically, if they do that, they will get to be both ninjas and pirates. And then the internet and the rest of the world will completely implode. Because they'll have to fight themselves. Just saying. Awkward silence. All right. So now, the next bullet point is probably my favorite one. Adventure mode may be coming to Legion.
Nope.
What?
You said you were like, my next bullet point is probably my favorite one, and I was like $.
I don't know if I want to get started on that one. We'll get to it, but
we'll get to it.
We're gonna do this one next. Adventure mode may be coming to Legion. No details, but something that may be discussed at BlizzCon. In adventure mode, for all you Diablo fans, well, it's stuff in Diablo, adventure mode. I actually don't know a whole lot about it outside of, I guess you just go through and you kill tons of mobs, get tons of loot, and just keep on keeping on. Like, not a whole lot to it.
Yeah, I don't play Diablo, but I think it's basically like a daily objective that you can do, and once you do it, then there's another one, and so on. So it's just continuous flow of objectives that give various rewards.
Okay. I didn't know that part. I thought it was just like, yeah, just go, kill, destroy, loot, do your thing. So that is good to know. All right.
The Adventure Journal.
Oh my god.
The Adventure Guide.
Yeah, all it is they just add to the Adventure Guide. Or the Dungeon Journal or whatever. Okay, and the final bullet point for the Legion panel. A previous tweet stated no major glyphs, but was clarified to say that there were no new major glyphs. So, glyphs are staying around, but there's just not going to be any new ones. Thoughts?
I mean, were there any new ones this expansion?
I have no idea.
I don't even remember.
I think there were some new cosmetic ones, and those are just minor glyphs anyway. Yeah. So
I mean, glyphs are kind of a cool thing to have, and they're required for PvP and PvE, but they're not really completely necessary, especially if you're
I
not
feel
even
like
gonna
they're just more of a
inscription's not
money
gonna even
sink.
need to make them anymore, and especially you're gonna need to use like old world mats to make glyphs and stuff that people are still gonna need.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I mean, once you have a glyph, you have it for life. Unlike the old days where you had to always buy new ones. But now
Yeah,
they're just really expensive. So getting them on an alt, or if you're leveling on a friend's server for the first time, it's like, I need this glyph, but it costs 200 gold. Eh, sucks.
that could be a problem if there's a glyph that you have to have and you can't find it in the auction house because no one's making them anymore.
That too. Oh god, that's the worst. Especially on a low pop server. Oh god, that is the worst.
Yeah,
So yeah, definitely agree that the glyph system should. I don't know. I think it should be changed altogether, or just removed,
or just taken out of the game.
or yeah, make it pure cosmetic. Like keep all the minor ones, maybe make the major ones and the minor ones, so you can have like more cosmetic glyphs. Because there's cosmetic glyphs that I would rather have, but I already got really good ones in the slot. It's like I want more, but I can only have 3, and I want more, but it ain't happening.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, and they don't really. They're just kind of a cool thing to have.
Yeah.
But inscription is still necessary because they make held and offhands and staves
Yep.
for the crafted items. So that's their main significance, I guess.
True. I forgot about that. I always forget about that. I don't know anything about inscription. Because I don't do that. I make bags. That's all I do. Alright, and there's a ton of tweets about tons of stuff, and they're all out of order and phrased really weird and whatever, so if you want to go check them out, there's tons of them involving demon hunters, general, adventure mode, artifacts, professions, classes, transmogging, collections, reputations, and flying. That's all the different tweets that you can read about.
For flying, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same as WoD.
Yeah. No flying at the start. Might have flying later. Most likely. By the way, have you gotten flying yet in Warlords?
Yeah.
How was it?
I mean, I was looking forward to it earlier on in the expansion, but and then when I actually got it, I really just didn't care.
What do you mean by I didn't care?
Like, I mean, it's just I've got nowhere to fly to. Where am I going to fly?
Everywhere, dude.
It's cool to look over it. It's cool to like look and see the zones because the zones are pretty good.
Yeah.
But, and I'll tell you what it's useful for though is if you're leveling up in alt to loot those treasures. That's how you level up.
Oh, that is true. I forgot about that. Okay, so
you
you can
level
get
up
it
quick
on
doing
alt.
that.
You can get it on it all after you're done.
Yeah, it's account wide, so all your characters can fly.
All right.
At level 90.
We're gonna take a quick break, and we will be right back.
All right.
All right, and we're back from break. I think we were originally talking about flying, but it's been so long that I don't know, and I don't really care anymore. Flying is flying, and now we're talking about something completely different. Its own flying city, Dalaran. Apparently, it's gonna get some sweet upgrades in the new Legion expansion. It's gonna be places we've never seen before, and allegedly it might be the new home for rogues, which I know a lot of rogues want in Ravenholt, but it might be Dalaran.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, what I heard about the underbelly is like the sewers of Dalaran or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like how it used to be like a place where people would like duel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at this interview or something, and I think it's Tom Chilton, and basically he was saying that there's like this going to be this cool thing in like the underbelly where like you like have duels and stuff.
Yeah.
And like you bribe the guards and stuff like that.
Oh, what?
So like they'll like go away and like come back and stuff like that.
That's kind of amazing, and I hope that happens.
Yeah, it sounded really awesome. And it did say that the sewers would also be a potential, glass order hall, like you just said, for rogues.
Okay. Wow, that's still going back to that bribe thing. I'm like, oh my god, I want that to be a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll just be funny to see. It's like, hey guard, look the other way. I'm gonna get this guy. Oh man. All right. So was there anything else about Dalaran that we discovered, or was that nothing really new on that?
Yeah. I guess like they're gonna like the city's gonna remain pretty much the same, but I think they are gonna rearrange some stuff, particularly in the center of the city. I think,
Okay.
but and they are gonna update the textures. It's not gonna be an exact replica.
I think it needs a whole. I think they just need to rebuild Dalaran from the ground up. Like, I need the mages of Dalaran to get tired of their city. Be like, you know what? We need a completely new city, and just make it completely brand new. Because otherwise, people are gonna come and they're gonna just be like, oh, it's like
Because it was made in what? Like it was made in 2007 or 2008. So
yeah, the one for Wrath. Because I don't even know if you're able to go into the original Dalaran. I don't think you were. I think the barrier was always there back at the
yeah.
old Dalaran, and you couldn't get in. And then in Wrath, you were able to go in, and it's been there ever since. So
Yeah, I think that one's gonna stay there in its current state as well.
yeah, that would make sense. Well, what if they did get rid of it?
Not really.
That'd be weird.
How's it in two places at once?
Magic. I mean, it's a magical city, so it could totally work. I don't know. Garage Hellscream manages to be in like 3 places at once.
Yeah.
Because he's in Northrend, and then he's also in Well, he was in Orgrimmar. Wildcrest.
Oh yeah, he's like a different it's like a different model.
Yeah.
Like what the hell?
And then you have
I forgot about that.
the old one, of course, from back in Burning Crusade. He's just everywhere. So, fun times. Dalaran, you can do what you want to do. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If you want to be in 2 places at once, you can go ahead and do that. All right, and then
Yeah, I'm glad it's Dalaran.
yeah,
I'm happy with that.
I'll be happier once I see there's a big enough difference to make it different. Kind of like
Yeah, I
everything
think
else.
there will be.
I hope so. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yep. Me too.
And then so we came up with a bunch of things. But now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know if they're really worth bringing up a whole lot, because we talked about a lot. Oh yeah, professions. They apparently going to get more quests, like profession-specific quests.
Yeah, I think didn't we already talk about that?
We talked about the idea of them having a daily, replacing that cooldown thing, but that was kind of a joke. But this is confirmed that there's going to be actual quests involved, so it doesn't necessarily mean daily quests. It'll probably have a daily attached to it. I'm willing to bet there's going to be some kind of quest line. But like, we need you to go to the mountain of things and get the piles of stuff and craft it into the thingamajooger. Because reasons. And then everyone's going to thingamajooger OP.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what they do for quests or professions. I don't really know how that would work. I guess it would be related to the mats.
Well, since there's no
either
legendary
acquiring
quest
mats
anymore,
yeah,
got to do something. So they might make some kind of, instead of a legendary quest line, some kind of quest line where you craft an epic piece. So
yeah,
and
maybe
I'd
something
be
like that.
perfectly happy with that. Like, it doesn't have to be legendary. So that's probably what
Maybe it'd be like a different quest chain for each like piece of gear, like for like shoulders or chest or something. It'd be a different quest line.
What's going to be really silly is when you do your enchanting quest, It's like, you're going to go collect these essences of things. And then you're going to enchant this other piece of gear. And it's going to do not a whole lot else. Was light cutting out at all?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. I don't know what's up with that.
If you like ask a question and I don't respond, it probably means that like you cut out. I didn't get it.
Gotcha. I know I've been kind of muting and unmuting my mic when I have to cough. So I don't know if that's related to it. That might be part of it.
It might be. I think it's probably the internet connection. I think it's my internet connection.
Gotcha.
Or the curse call.
Yeah, I know. I saw it sometimes dip into the yellow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like, if at times like it's weird because I don't know if it's like neither one of us is talking, if it's just silent,
right,
or if it's like you're talking and I can't hear you, so that's why.
I see. I might have to go back to Skype next time, but I know there's no static this time around, so it's a lot nicer in that regard.
The voice quality has been pretty good.
And maybe there's some settings we can try tweaking
when I can hear you.
Time. Right. But what I was saying is, making fun of the profession quest is, if you're a blacksmith, you go and make this crafted helm of superiority, and it looks super cool. But then, oh my god, I see myself. Oh, I think I know what it is. I'm gonna go to my settings. Hold on. I think I know what it is. Voice. It says automatically adjust volume activation level. I don't need that. Just talk all, or just be here all the time. Boom. Hold on. I think it should be fine now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it should be a lot
better. Because it has been doing that like pretty much the whole time. So.
Okay. And yeah, that won't affect the recording. No, everyone's gonna be like, "You guys are crazy. What are you talking about?" But yeah, I can definitely understand why on your end it would be.
Yeah, I think that was it. It seems to be fixed.
Perfect. Because yeah, if I was talking too low, I could see. Because right now when I'm talking, I look on the screen, and like I'm completely lit up. But there was times where like it wouldn't light up at all, and I'm like, "Oh, this must be what he's talking about."
Okay.
Now it's like when you talk, you light up.
It.
If I were to talk really low like this, it might not light up, and I might be trying to deliver some kind of epic punchline by talking really quiet for a while, and then saying something like this, and then you'd be like, "What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?"
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
What?
I didn't hear you what you said.
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Damn it. Whatever just Okay. I'm gonna do this joke for like the third and final time. So say you're a blacksmith and you create this really epic helm of epicness. But then, if you're an enchanter and you don't have any other cool things, and you do this daily quest, or you do this giant quest line, and you go to the mountain of stuff to collect the ashes of things to enchant your cape with something. And it's just like, oh, +5 to, strength. And it's like, oh, cool. I get nothing out of it, but, if you're a blacksmith, you could actually make something, and you did this quest line to get something that looks cool. But no, I'm just, I got an enchant.
Yeah.
Yay. So.
Or maybe you got a recipe.
Yeah, but still, like, the point is, you don't get to see the results of your work, unless the enchant itself, I guess, looks cool. Like, maybe it's a weapon enchant, like, looks like it's 10,000 different flames of color or something. I don't know what that means, but
yeah, it'd be cool to have like cosmetic incentives for professions.
Yeah, I know one thing
that of actual
is they had the idea, if you had an enchanting station in Warlords of Draenor, you could transmog your enchants.
Yeah.
So they needed to just make that a thing,
Which was cool.
full time.
For just enchanters.
Yep. They need to just do that, like in general.
Yeah.
Make a enchant transmog station.
So like just enchanters can do it, but like they can enchant other people's gear, so you can just pay an enchanter to enchant your weapon with a transmog enchant.
Yep. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to touch upon before we wrap it all up?
Let's see. I'll look at my list.
You got it.
So yeah, I mean, I guess one question would be: is Legion going to be a yearly expansion? Real quick, I'd probably say no, just because there's going to be a lot of storylines in it, and it just doesn't. It seems like it'd have to be more time than a year. But they have been talking about yearly expansions, but
I mean,
it seems like it's way too much.
Yeah. Or
seems
they
way
might
too
go
complex.
the route of, we have all these storylines, we need to flesh them out, but we're going to do that every year and make you pay money for them.
Yeah.
It's either they do it in a patch or they do it in an expansion. It's one or the other.
So I guess for the release date, I'd say probably like 3 or 4 months. Isn't it? The expansion usually.
Well, they said beta is going to be coming later this year. And later this year is almost the end of the year. So I'm guessing, because BlizzCon's in November, we might see beta before then or the day after. Like, there might be a thing like, beta's going to launch right now as of the end of Blizz. Oh, God, no. No, we lost the connection. Hold on. And we are back. All right, so I forget what I was saying because my connection dropped. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the release date.
Right. Okay, so my theory is at BlizzCon, they're either going to announce, like, hey, after BlizzCon's over, beta, or we might even see beta just before it. Who knows? That'd be kind of crazy if we did, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
If I had to estimate, I'd probably say like May or like June.
As an official release?
Somewhere in there. Yeah, for the release of the actual expansion.
That's
probably May.
That's a good bet. If I wanted to go crazy, let's see. So, going off the November beta theory, December at the latest, I'm gonna go crazy and say March. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we really didn't see a whole lot of content at the announcement.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's probably a lot more. We're probably going to see most of that at BlizzCon.
Oh yeah, because that was all just.
I'd say
whatever.
There's probably more. They're just holding off. You know.
Yeah, because that was just Gamescom originally, and then they let a little bit more go at DragonCon, and BlizzCon. They're going to be like, yeah, you want. And Chris Messon's going to come out and be like, you want to battle the Legion? Well, here you go. And all of his epicness and whatnot.
I wonder if they're going to bring back those, the Fel Reavers.
Oh my God! Just you walk in, there's Fel Reavers everywhere. They better. If they don't have Fel Reavers, I will be massively disappointed. I will unsub for no Fel Reavers. There we go.
Well, I guess actually, it's not really like Outland though. So
it's not like Outland.
It is the Legion.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's all about the Legion.
Yeah, it's the Legion.
Burning Crusade was all about Legion. Now we're all about Legion again. I don't care if we're in a completely different place. We need Fel Reavers. I want Fel Reavers to be the, first, second, and last boss. Fel Reavers everywhere. There was a Fel Reaver boss in, Warlords, right?
Black Temple, yeah.
Yeah. It's not good enough. I need more.
Wait, in Warlords?
In Warlords. And,
I think there was 2 in Burning Crusade.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, no, wait.
Wait. There's one at Tempest Keep and there's one in Black Temple.
Tempest Keep. Yeah, there was one in Tempest Keep. No. I think Black Temple had Supremus. He was just a giant abyssal.
It was like the same model though, right? Oh no, it wasn't abyssal. You're right. Yeah.
Pause for a second. And back again. Told you at the beginning of the podcast we were subject in some interruptions. Luckily, instead of having to go back and edit things, I was just able to pause. But unfortunately, that makes me lose my train of thought very easily. So I think we were talking about Fel Reavers and stuff. So yeah, I just want Fel Reavers. End of that one. Fel Reavers.
Yeah, Fel Reavers.
More Fel Reavers. In fact, they should just call it, instead of Legion, just call it Fel Reavers. I'd play that.
It's basically the same thing.
World of Warcraft, Fel Reavers.
It's World of Warcraft Fel Reaver.
Yep. Bam.
There's just one.
Exactly, and just replace Illidan's image with Fel Reaver. Boom.
Fel Reaver should be on the box.
I almost think people would get more hyped about that. Because whenever people talk about Burning Crusade, one of the first things they mention is like, dude, when you go out in that dark portal, there's Fel Reavers, you're trying to level. Dude, I remember them days.
Out of nowhere, dude.
Out of nowhere.
So big, but they're so big, but they still sneak up on you.
Yep. And they just crush you. All right. So, I think that's close to everything, isn't it?
Let's talk about Karazhan.
All right. Lead the way.
All right, so I mean, obviously they haven't really announced Karazhan as a sure thing, but I mean, it's in the trailer.
Yeah.
So that leads us to believe that it will play some role, and that also leads to Medivh possibly coming into play at some point.
Oh, I am hype about that.
Yeah, but so basically, what this is sort of a question for you. What would you prefer? Like, if they were to bring back Karazhan, like, would you want to see the same sort of like the same raid, just like a revamped version of it, like just an improved quality of like the encounters and stuff, or not necessarily the same bosses, but just sort of like the same layout, like the same, like the inside of the tower? Or would you rather have like a different part of the tower, like the crypts or something like that, like a completely different setting based around Karazhan?
I mean,
that makes sense.
I think the only thing that would really need to change, and I don't even know because I don't know a whole lot about the canon of Karazhan and how it works, but I thought the one thing that was always a bit weird is when you go fight the last dude, the Burning Legion dude at the very end, and you're just kind of in that weird space-time thing that's outside, like the very last fight. I forget what the dude's name is, but I always thought that was a little bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like being outside, like it just seems like a different atmosphere than the rest of the raid.
Not even just like being outside, because I know there's the dragon that you fight, but when you go to the very top of the tower or something, and you go through, and there's like twisting nether and stuff and whatnot. Damn it! I never actually did. Here's my problem. I never actually did Karazhan back in Burning Crusade, so I don't have a true experience to speak of. So it's more like I went and did transmog runs or some runs with friends, and I never got a true experience out of it. So would I want it to be revamped? Maybe. But at the same time, I've seen that before where they revamp it, they stick different bosses in there, and they kind of do like throwbacks to, what's been done. I know they did that with Shadowfang Keep, and I just don't know if I'd want to see that mechanic really played into it again. Just similar fights with different bosses. I don't know if I'd want to see that.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
Like, if they're going to go super ham on making Legion like this whole big new thing, I want, like, if they redo Karazhan, I think it needs to be completely new. Like, the layout, probably not a whole lot you can change, because I'm sure it's, kind of going to be the same building. But you could also say, oh, hey, it's a magical building, it changed. Or, like, things got really effed up because reasons and whatever. I'm sure you can figure out a thing to do with it, but at the same time, I think all the bosses and a lot of the mobs or whatever just need to be completely. It needs to be its own new thing. It needs to stand on its own 2 feet.
Well, like you talked about Shadowfang Keep, right? So like, Shadowfang Keep, it's basically the same layout of the dungeon, but the bosses are different.
Yeah.
Like something like that, or just completely new.
I'm saying I don't want them to pull a Shadowfang Keep, like they
Okay.
did in Cataclysm. I want them to do completely new, fresh out of the box kind of ideas. Whatever Blizz can pull off with it, make it happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's kind of cool how you start at the bottom and you like work your way up to the top, and that you find the end boss at the top of the tower. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So maybe keep that same mechanic, but
I don't even know what kind of fight I would want. I don't even know what bosses I would want. But I just want it to be a whole new experience. Like I want this to be a fresh breath of air, not just like a rehash. Because it feels like so much is already kind of being rehashed. Like you're fighting Illidan again. You're gonna be going back to Dalaran again. You're gonna like the continent or whatever's new, but if we rehash Karazhan, oh my god, it's just. I feel like there's a lot of familiar tastes that we're already going to get to experience, and we need something that's going to be so new and mind-blowing that it reminds us of what it was like to go to Karazhan the first time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And nothing's ever going to give it, like, for those who did it, or really the first time going into, like, any kind of raid, nothing's ever going to replace the first time experience. Like, you're never going to get to relive the glory days, but if you can deliver a new experience in a great way, that's what you need to focus on. Not like trying to bring back old glories, because people have tried over and over again. Like, whether it be
exactly. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen with the current state of the game. I mean,
even go back to
really realistically,
server, like with Nostalrius or whatever the heck it's called that you were playing. I've also looked into, like, it's one of those things, like you get those good feelings, like, oh yeah, we're doing the World Dragons, or we're doing AQ 40 for the first time on the server, like all these different things. I'm sure it feels great, but it's not going to feel like super fantastic. And even if you technically never did the content, you're still going to think like, man, I wish I was here for the original. Like, it's always going to be that nagging feeling that you just can't recreate.
Exactly.
And I struggle with it too, because I love living in the past and be like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
So I'm just as bad.
Yeah.
I'm terrible when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because that's like one of the worst things for me, because I was around. I was playing the game during Burning Crusade. I was playing the game during the original vanilla for just towards the end.
Yeah.
But like, I never had the experiences though, because I was just I didn't raid, and I wasn't a serious player at all. So I was playing when the experiences were happening. I just wasn't experiencing them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And most of it's just like, oh yeah, or like you hear other people go, back in my day, this is so cool, and then you're like, oh man, I wish I was there. Like, to this day, I'll still say Burning Crusade was the best, and I never played it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like that's the same for a lot of people.
And by the way, it was Burning Crusade was the best.
Thank you. Thanks for adding to my feelings, man. I never got to play that.
If you had played it, you would have the same opinion if you had played it.
I'm sure. I'm super sure. It's like me. I'll say, for my end, Halo 2 was the first shooter I ever got into, and nothing's ever gonna beat the original Xbox Live days of Halo 2. Like, compared to any other Halo, I tried Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo 4, the remade Master Chief Collection. Like, I've tried all of it, and just, never feel the same as when I went over to a friend's house for the first time, experienced Xbox Live, heard 12-year-olds swearing, and like, while they're putting a rocket launcher to my face, and I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm playing with people like from across the country, man. This is amazing. And it's just, it's never gonna be the same.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
Yep. And I think what?
So yeah, I'm just saying, hopefully they can make new experiences,
Exactly.
that are still good but different.
And if not, I'm just gonna play a crap ton of Overwatch.
Thank you.
So that's my fallback.
That'll be interesting.
Which I'm probably gonna play either way. I'm gonna go super ballsy on that. But I think.
Yeah, I don't think.
Oh, I was just gonna say I think we should wrap this up. We've covered everything.
Yeah.
To a T. And if people have any other things they want us to talk about, we'll definitely talk about them. And when we find out more information, we'll definitely be talking about that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So today has been whatever the name we're going to cover for this podcast, because I'm sure I'll think of another name.
Yep.
And we'll do our final sign off things here. Pretty much what I've been doing lately is making some Heroes of the Storm machinima. So if you play Heroes of the Storm, go check out my channel. I only got one up there right now, but I got a few more scripts written out, and I'll be.
Yeah, I'll put if you're watching this on my channel, I'll put Dergon Frost's channel in the description.
Yeah, and then
if I remember.
Vice versa. Same here. And what kind of stuff have you been putting out lately?
Nothing really. I mean, my last video was like a guide for it was actually like a glitch video for how to get this item in Tanan Jungle using the Safari Lounge cushion.
Oh, nice.
And I made a video about the top 5 dungeons in classic World of Warcraft.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, if any of you are still listening, thank you for sticking it out with us this long. And we'd love to hear from you. And long live the Legion.
Respond to any comments you have, or
And
tell us in the comments. What are your thoughts about Legion? Like, are you looking forward to it? Are you skeptical about it? Because
exactly.
I think a lot of people probably have a lot of different opinions about it.
Oh yeah, and we'll have them before and after it comes out. So we will see.
Yep.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you all have an excellent evening.